We're back to Blunts and Coffee. So the topic of discussion is family dynamics. So basically, we're going to be talking about my mom. My mom has been deceased 11 years now. And she had her own series of traumas in her life that made her who she was and who she wasn't. So with that being said, it then dwindled on to me. But I was at a point in my life where, one, I didn't realize I was depressed about her lack of existence as a motherly figure. And I didn't know I was depressed. I never resonated with it until 2005. I graduated high school in 2004, and 2005 is when it hit me. At that time, we're going to go back to childhood though. So with that being said, my mom was born in the Ukraine. My dad met her there, flew her to Liberia, left her in Liberia, came to the States, pursued education, got them papers for them to come here. In that time, my oldest brother was born in the Ukraine, and my second oldest brother was born in Liberia, okay? So my sister was already born in Liberia. She's the firstborn, but that dynamic doesn't come on till later down in the line of conversation. So 2 kids in Liberia by herself, grew up in a somewhat of a broken home, basically because my grandmother was forced into some things that she didn't necessarily agree with, but because her husband, which is my grandfather, he's the patriarch, and you're gonna do what they say. He's the man. So naturally, my mama told me that she didn't have a good relationship with her mother because her mother treated her like her friend and not as her daughter. My grandmother confided in my mom a lot when she was growing up. Moral of the story is, my grandmother was not abused physically by him, abused mentally, and then physically via abortions. So my mom told me that he had gotten my grandfather had gotten my grandmother pregnant several times and made her to abort. So my mom is here, and then I have an aunt is here. So they birthed 2 kids. My mom and her sister are 13 years apart. So that's 13 years plus of damage that, she had to go through. The trauma, my grandmother telling her about all these things that, her father is doing to her mother. The verbal abuse, the forcing to have an abortion, and then picks up and leaves for another woman. So all of that. So when my oldest brother was born in the Ukraine, my grandmother loved her some him, okay? Because she got to hold that real life baby, because she had so many abortions, forceful abortions, that this baby, oh my God, I'm holding a real child, real love. But then it came time for them to move to Liberia, and then that set my grandmother off the edge, literally in the institution, off the edge. So my mother kept that on the inside. She told me one day when they were schoolgirls, which 13 years apart, anyway, her and my aunt came back from school, And my grandmother had taken all of their things. She had a mental breakdown. So she went through and took all of my mom's and all of my aunt's things out of the house and threw them away. I mean, just got rid of them. Didn't think twice, didn't ask no questions. Had a breakdown and cleaned everything out. So my mom also kept that in. She kept in the fact about her mother treating her like a friend rather than a mother. She dealt with trauma from leaving her whole life in Ukraine to follow my dad to Liberia and then birthing another kid. At that time, my mother tried to commit suicide as well. Trauma. Then being left alone because my dad was in the States trying to get papers and everything to get them over to the States. She tried to kill herself right in front of my brother. I'm sure he remembers that. I mean, obviously I wasn't born, so. But I feel like I'm hurting for him because he doesn't talk about it. But, Lord, I didn't know I was going to do this today. But, so that happened while they were in Liberia. Then my dad stepped out on my mom and had another baby, which is my third oldest brother. We are 2 months apart, ghetto twins. Okay. And then I have my youngest brother. So all this has happened. It has transpired in these years. My mom never talked about it. So I grew up in a house with 4 brothers, a daddy, and a mama. And my mom, basically, when I became able to fend for myself, it was like, all right, I'll holler at you. She didn't know how to have a relationship with me. To me, boys are easier. I don't know, because I have my own kids. I feel like boys are very simple. But every kid is intricate in their own way. And with that being said, she kind of gravitated more towards them because they could do for themselves more, I think. I'm not sure. But my mom also told me when I'd be in the house with her, I was all over her. But as soon as my daddy walked in the door, she didn't exist to me anymore. I was daddy. I am a daddy's girl. My daddy is deceased and I'm still my daddy's honey girl. I will always be that. So my mom went to school here. She was a nurse. She was in nursing school in Ukraine. She wanted to pursue that career here, but she couldn't because the language and the law. She couldn't do the English. It was a lot of language barriers for her to pass the law exam. So she went to school for graphic design. Okay. She danced in the ballet at, Sinclair Community College, and she took graphic design and she was very well with it. My mom she was an amazing artist in all facets, genres of artistry. She was good. So it was pretty dope because she flourished in the graphic design industry. She had a couple jobs, she made her own money, and then it was like she got a sense of self, and it was like, my money is my money, Papa's money is the house's money. I'm gonna do what I do with my money because I'm making my own money now. I'm not about to provide for my kids. I'm about to do what I gotta do for myself because now I finally got a sense of self. I'm finally making something of myself here. Meanwhile, Papa's struggling in the house as a foreigner to make ends meet.